Welcome back to the Talking Hedge. I'm Josh Kincaid, capital markets analyst and host of your cannabis business podcast. My next guest needs actually no introduction, but we're going to do it anyways. So this man is really famous. He was a musician. He was an actor, a director, an activist, a dancer. Tommy Chong is on the podcast today. Tommy, thanks for being on the Talking Hedge.
A singer too. Don't forget singer.
We aren't. We aren't. Now, yeah, you almost didn't become a movie star. So you got 61 credits on IMDb's. Like, I'm just going to name a couple. You were an Up and Smoke, still smoking. Miami Vice, my favorite growing up. All right. You were the George Carlin Show, which I think we could do a full podcast on. That's phenomenal. Half Baked, South Park, that 70s show, The Simpsons, Disjointed, Jay and Silent Bob reboot. All kinds of stuff, but you almost didn't make it to become a movie star. So you were playing the guitar at 17 years old, and you were inspired by your first joint or whatever, maybe. So you became a professional musician, and so in the early 60s, you were playing in a band called the Bobby Taylor and Vancouvers.
That's right.
Yeah. And Diana Ross came knocking on your door. She caught the act and insisted that Motown sign you guys up immediately.
Yeah.
So you almost didn't make it into becoming an actor and everything you've done, because you had a number 29 in the country in 1968 with the R&B tune "Does Your Mama Know About Me?"
That's right. Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's my claim to fame. Yeah, I was so lucky, especially in the athletic department, because my brother, who was 3 years older than me. He was very physically fit. He was really good, and so he was always on the football team, the hockey team. In Canada, if you don't play hockey, then you're considered weird. But I was lucky. I wasn't physically fit because of an early hospitalization that I went through when I was really young, a baby. I was like, I don't know, three or four, where I contacted pleurisy, and I spent a year in the hospital, and that retarded my physical growth, legs especially, legs and butt, and so I always used to kind of curse that, but then I thought about it, man, I'm still here. Everybody else is gone, because that the sports is what takes it out of you. You get whacked in the head, you get some bones broken. But anyway, I was lucky, and here I am.
That's awesome. That's actually how I got into cannabis, with sports. I played football, and all kinds of broken to this day. And I probably would have continued to play and been a jock and looked at stoners as, this lazy group of people or whatever, until I actually got into it and realized that, maybe they were all smoking too much indica or whatever. But yeah, I mean,
what position did you play? Were you quarterback? It sounds like.
No, I was actually center. I played center, and then I played defensive end. So I was like the smaller one.
You had a big butt, or no one else wanted to play center?
I did. No, well, I think a little bit of both. Yeah, I could squat 500 pounds, so I had a big old booty. So I was one of the stronger ones, but the offensive line kind of came down like a V because I was the smallest one. But so I'm an advocate for cannabis because of that, and I think that the active cannabis lifestyle and seeing some of these athletes, like Athletes for Care, is a nonprofit for retirement. I was watching Shark Tank and saw that one of the sharks, what's his name, retired basketball player,
Mark.
No, not Mark Cuban. He played with the Suns. Charles Barkley. So Charles Barkley had said that 85% of all athletes go broke. And I was like, wow, we should, probably try to reach out to Athletes for Care and see if we can't help them out with our investment fund that we're working on. But a lot of those guys are broken.
Oh, they do. Well, they get taken advantage of, I'm really good friends with Sugar Ray Leonard. And they all go through that, instant money, and then it's gone, and Barkley had a horrible gambling problem for the longest time, and he got out of it. Him and Michael Jordan, and look at Michael. How about Michael winning with Bubba winning the Daytona 500?
Yeah.
Man, I cracked up. That's the most racist organization.
Mm-hmm.
And who wins?
Yeah.
Bubba and Michael Jordan.
Well, it's funny. NASCAR is trying to tap into the LGBTQ community because of the high disposable income. So they know that they're going to buy the leather jackets and the popcorn and everything. And it's just kind of this confliction of the viewers and then the money behind it. Speaking of, were you seeing in the music industry and acting that people were getting taken advantage of in the similar light that athletes were?
Big time. Willie Nelson.
Mm.
Willie Nelson lost his accountant. Was she here? Was he family? But Willie's he's a good old boy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, entertainers. But Cheech and I got ripped off. Up in Smoke, we got ripped off, but it was okay. It all worked out good. But no, I was lucky. I hooked up with he was a gangster kind of from New York. When Cheech and I when we left Lou Adler after Up in Smoke, we had a hit movie and no money. And no money, and because we had to stop working live to do the movie, and so we had no income, and we got ripped off, and so I met this mutual friend. Actually, Lou Adler's cousin turned me on to Howard Brown. He was a Jewish, brilliant guy from New York, but his claim to fame was that he was a ladies' man. And he would hit on the gangsters' girlfriends.
Oh wow, that sounds dangerous.
It was very dangerous, and he showed me how he did it. How he would hit on a girl, because he wasn't like movie star. He looked like what he was, New York Jew, and but he was a great guy. Anyway, we got together. And I love gangsters anyway. I grew up with them in Vancouver, and in the gym in Vancouver. That's where all the gangsters hung out in the gym too. A lot of them, the successful ones. And but anyway, Howard Brown, he took us out of the poverty and put us on the right road, and taught me a lot about counting. Making sure you got good representation. See, you got to have that lawyer, or at least you got to know a lawyer. In fact, that's better because what you do, you can get free advice from your friend, and then you can hire a cheaper lawyer, but tell him what to do. So, yeah.
You actually missed out on Vancouver's legalization because you missed you lost your passport temporarily or something. So you missed out on going up there and seeing the legalization, but I have no doubt you've probably seen it since. What's your take on Canada's legalization? And do you think that, speaking of gangsters up in like Vancouver in your area, what role does the Hells Angels play, if any?
Well, the Angels controlled all the weed and all and I still think they do as far as heroin from China and stuff like that. They're involved in it. I had a buddy that used to be a mule. He used to bring it down from Vancouver, and that's when I got a lesson in how the police are involved. The DEA is where they were totally involved. Not everybody, but most of them totally involved in the drug trade, and they were the ones that tried to keep it from being legal because they lost their income. But yeah, Vancouver is Canada was a hotbed of gangsterism in the stock market area. That's why if you notice, if you know the cannabis trading up in Canada, it's all scammy. It's all.
There's
I
some
wouldn't
pump
go
and
near
dumps
it.
and crazy stuff going on in the stock market up there with pot stocks for sure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, that's like where all my gangster friends hung out. Uh, we stayed away from it. The thing is, Canada uh, is totally racist. People don't realize how racist Canada is.
Wow.
And it's just white guys running the country. That's what it was. In Vancouver, they used to advertise in Scotland and Ireland for police because they didn't want any, they just wanted to keep the police force white. They used to, for the longest time. And the Chinese in Vancouver, they weren't even allowed to hold public office until the 60s. Wow. So, and if you notice, I don't know if you remember, but back in the day, they used to have produce companies called Acme Produce or General Produce or, very generic names because Chinese weren't allowed to own businesses like that. And so what they would do, because they were the geniuses behind the produce business and the restaurant business and all the businesses, because that's what China, it was civilization when Americans were chasing each other with bows and arrows. Right. So there's racism in China. I mean, in Vancouver, terrible.
Do you think I was going to ask, do you think that China's going to play a role or Asians in general, whether it's India or China, in automation for cannabis? Because up in Canada, they're growing about a gram on average, about $6 per gram, whereas in the US, it's about $1. So we're private companies in the US, they're public up there, there's speculation and crazy stock prices. So in order to bring that price down, is it going to be automation or is it just going to continue to be day laborers? How's that market going to change? What have you guys seen with Chong's Choice and the evolution of, automation to bring that cost down?
Well, that's why the Hells Angels used to bring all the weed from Canada. BC Bud would ship it down to LA because there's no market in Canada. Really, we got more people in California than you have in all of Canada, and so there's not a big market. And then, like they have down here, this is America, this is where, the cocaine trade and the heroin trade and the marijuana trade was in America. It's hard to say with Canada because again, it's a political thing. It depends who you get in to pass the laws, because they got a law against they wrote a law against me up in Canada. Did you know that? No. The celebrity law.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I mean, who's the biggest Canadian pothead in Canada, in America?
Yeah.
Hello.
Right.
and so they said you cannot do celebrity endorsements. So they wanted to keep me out of the business, but other companies other companies tried to get me through the side door, but that whole publicity thing, that kind of backfired on them, so all those stocks and that, they saw it was really right for a while. They got no customers. I mean, you don't have the movers and groovers, and you're not moving that kind of product, anymore. Yeah. So Canada was illegal, and then when they got it legal, they try to treat it like alcohol, like a sin tax. They try to make it like, oh, we're going to make a lot of money because we're going to charge like we do with alcohol. The thing is, you can't do that with that. See, with alcohol, it needs to be brewery, it needs to be processed. And so you can control the amount that goes out. Weed, I used to say, and still do, your grandmother will grow enough weed for you to last you the rest of your life, because it grows, 3 crops a year? And it just grows for anybody, anywhere. you know, and then as far as quality goes, you know, the plant is perfect. You know, like people say to me, well, they say, oh, you know, the weed today is not like your grandfather's weed, you know, it's much stronger, blah, blah, blah. It's the same plant. If anything, it's cleaner. Maybe you got less seeds in it, you know. It's the same plant. And, you know, we all used to get, a bunch of us, the whole band would get stoned on one little joint of Mexican weed, you know. And so now, as far as we have to take it slow. This is what we're doing. We're taking it slow. We're opening up Cheech Chong dispensarias, and we're going public, but we're doing it slow. We're taking it easy, especially with the pandemic now. But isn't it interesting that bars are closed, shut, and dispensaries are wide open?
Essential business, right? It would be nice to have the equivalent of a bar. In Washington State, it's a Class C felony to maintain and operate a marijuana lounge. So I wrote a bill to overturn that in 2019, submitted in October, and then the next month or two, the pandemic hit, and then that's been sidelined. So you guys fortunately have delivery in Cali. We don't. So as things get fast tracked like delivery, that marijuana lounge is kicked to the wayside. So unfortunately, we're gonna have to wait for bars and stuff. But it'd be nice to have like a dispensary like you and Cheech's, to have something similar where you go and buy it and then have another room to consume it.
No, the thing is, it's not alcohol. I went through that mind trip about having lounges and that. No, the whole is, you want it to be more like a coffee house as opposed to a bar. You know what I'm saying? Because a bar, you know, the whole alcohol thing, you know, because the thing is, when you got a bar, you're dealing with sick people, you're dealing with crazy people, you're dealing with Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, sweetest as they come in, and then they stagger out, can't find their purse, you know, and it's like a medical thing. It's you know, I owned a bar, the family owned. We own two bars, so I know that whole thing. Whoa, no, I was thinking more than anything, art. You have the dispensaries near an art gallery. You know, an art gallery / bookstore. You know, that's what you want, with the healthy food, but not fast foods. Fast foods means you grab it, run, do your thing. You know, don't have time to sit, you know, in a nice area, or money, so you eat your whatever it is. Cannabis really promotes good food, good drink. You know, that's what you want. If anything, so my idea would be have the lounges more like a community center. Because one thing about Canada that I loved is a community center, because you know, Canada is really full of poor people, working class people, you know, because if they got any kind of money, they usually come down to the States, you know, and live. You're not going to retire in Canada, you know. I mean, people have, but out of necessity more than anything. And so we have a whole population of not, you know, people that need a community, you know. You know, there's rich people down here that can afford their own skating rink. Well, up in Canada, you barely can afford skates. But so you need a place to skate. And so the community center came in. And that, I think that's what's lacking in America, is because what a community center is, it takes care of the community, be it the old, you know, rich, poor, young, you know, we're all, in Canada, they had commissionaires, retired army guys, as the police force, you know. And so it's very humane kind of approach. And that's what I think is needed, whether you deal with cannabis or whatever you deal with. But see, cannabis is more of a medicine. That's what I'm finding out. Because everybody thought, oh, the hippies would be lined up to get their drugs. Everybody's worried about hippies in the neighborhood, but it turns out it's old ladies. It's people with, when they legalized it in Colorado. I was there the day it was legal, and it looked like a lineup to see Jesus, because they're in crutches or wheelchairs, and they're all lined up early to get their medicine.
Right.
That's what cannabis is. It's a medicine.
It is, and you've used it for yourself, right? You had prostate cancer, and going back to your other point about the humane aspect of it, I think in Colorado it was the only place that there was a marijuana lounge that turned into a shelter for the homeless people. That's kind of the whole concept behind that. And you yourself have experience with that, and cannabis as a medicine as you use it for prostate cancer. So you were diagnosed in June of 2012, about 19 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm curious how that's helped you from your life, either Dancing with the Stars, or maybe it helped with you recovering from death in the mid 90s. I think that death was greatly exaggerated. I don't think you died in the mid 90s. But maybe
it was the beginning of the computer.
Right.
See, that's when the computer just started. So when they heard I had cancer, the next thing, they wanted to get a jump on it while he died. But no, my death was greatly exaggerated. It really.
Did you use a certain type? Was it Rick Simpson oil?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I know what I did. I dosed myself really bad, but heavy with Rick Simpson oil. Then I was doing prostate. What do you call it when you shove it up your butt?
Oh, a suppository.
Suppositories, yeah. I was on Access America with Billy Bush, and he says, "Oh, how's the prostate?" I said, "Good. I'm using suppositories." And Billy says, "Oh, how's that working out?" He said, "Well, how does that work?" And I said, "Well, get a nice warm place, turn down the lights, put on a little jazz."
Oh my God.
You change into something comfortable.
I was talking to the editor at Edibles magazine who used a suppository and then went bowling, and he said he bowled a near perfect game, like almost a 300 game. And he said, "I'm pretty sure that suppositories are a performance enhancing drug."
Yeah. It worked. But the trouble is, when I had prostate, I made a mistake. I knew during Dancing with the Stars. Well, first of all, I had prostate, and they said we're not going to treat, we're not going to radiate it, we're not going to do anything because it's slow acting, and you'll probably, in fact, maybe that's what the death rumor. You'll probably die of something else before you die of prostate cancer. So we're not going to bother with you. And I kind of thought that was weird, but I said, okay. And so then I went on Dance with the Stars, and I ended up with rectal cancer. I got it, and I'm quite sure it was the stress of the show. Plus I did a biopsy, which you never should do. If you get any kind of cancer, don't do biopsy. Take their word for it. If their x-ray says you got it, you got it, and then treat it from there, because the biopsy, I think, spread it from my prostate to my rectum. And because they're microscopic germs, and and so after I did Dancing with the Stars, I had to go in and get a check. There's something wrong, blood in the stool. And so right away, especially when you got cancer anyway. And sure enough, I got rectal cancer. And so I had to, now I had to go the full steam. And that's when I really got into the Rick Simpson oil. But you know what I think helped more than anything, besides a good surgeon. You know, I ended up with a Dr. Kajani, and anyway, my arthroscopic, you know, where they hadn't been doing that. The first doctor I went to, he's old fashioned, you know, he's kind of, you get a jackhammer in there, you know? and then I got, you know, the top of the line guy, and he goes in there, you know, and so he removed but before I had the tumor removed, I had radiation, and they radiated the prostate at the same time. They said, "Oh, we're down there anyway, so we'll take out." So they cleaned out the prostate of the cancer, and then they removed the tumor, and then I started doing injectable into the body CBD oil. That's really what promoted the healing, because that's the whole point. It's the way cannabis works, as far as I'm concerned, is that it works on the brain. It calms the brain to the point where you can barely remember your name, let alone anything else, anything to worry about. And so it takes away the stress. And once the stress is gone, then your immune system kicks in. Because when animals get hurt, like a dog, when it gets hurt, it doesn't go to the vet, you know, it crawls away somewhere and it sleeps. It fasts. It doesn't eat, doesn't drink, and it just sleeps. And what it does, it allows the body to take care of itself. I call it, it's like a reboot. You know, you turn everything off, you reboot your body, and then the natural immune system kicks in. And that's what it did with me. And so, well, listen, I came out of the hospital and went right into the studio and did a Zootopia overdub. You know, I worked, and I haven't, you know, I was playing golf. There was no recovery time, because what you're recovering from usually is your effect with opioids, your addiction to opioids, because opioids keeps you high, and then your diet goes to hell because you're not that hungry, and you know what I'm saying, and it masks the pain as opposed to healing what needs to be healed. So my take on cannabis, especially with my position or my situation, was I calmed the mind, and I'm still in the same state. I have, because everything worked, and I thought, okay, I'm on a thing, you know, not only with the cannabis, but with the literature, what I put in my mind.
Right. So you couldn't use cannabis when you were in prison, right? But did you meditate to calm the mind? Because so Operation Pipe Dreams is this ridiculous story that you were given a 9-month prison sentence in November of 2003. You had to take a hiatus from the 70s show in order to do some time in prison. So you had a company called Nice Dream Enterprises. It was an internet company selling cannabis bongs and pipes. You were arrested in 2003 on federal drug paraphernalia charges, and then sentenced in September of that year, spending 9 months in jail and paying a $120,000 fine. So I'm curious if stress and the food you ate impacted your health.
Not in prison. No, actually, what happened when I and by the way, you know, I was totally innocent. You know, in so much as the only crime I committed was having my name, Chong Bongs. That was the only crime I committed, because it was my son's company, and so they had me over a barrel, because they said, if you don't plead guilty, we're going to go after your son. You know, and everybody else, you know, they had house arrest, but they threatened to put my son, and if that wasn't enough, my wife had signed a check that started the company. And so they were after my wife and my son. And so I said, I give up, you got me. But so no, what happened in prison, I turned it into a religious retreat. Seriously.
You called it Camp Cupcake, did you not?
Yeah, yeah. And because I was a celebrity, I was at the hierarchy and it was like a camp, like where Madoff is in now, that kind of thing, and where probably Trump will end up. But I ended up, if he's lucky. Uh, but I ended up. There's a there's a golf player right now. His name is Harris English. He's right up there. Number 3 at the FedEx. Anyway, his caddy now, Eric Larson, was doing a long stretch for cocaine distribution. But the thing is, he got suckered in, much like me, because when they busted Eric, when they busted the girl that was selling to Eric, they wanted a name, and the only name that she knew was Eric. And so Eric ended up fighting the case, and he got they offered him 5 years, and he said, I'm innocent. I shouldn't do any time. So, and Eric's very smart. He's one of the very intelligent guys. So he fought it and ended up getting 14 years.
Ooh.
And so he was there when I came. He was at the end of his sentence, and he created this garden, this vegetable garden, that we had to give the food to the homeless, and then but we got to eat out of the garden, and so I had the best meals for for the 9 months.
You were able to barter onions, right? Were onions more valuable than cigarettes at the time, and you were able to barter with onions?
Well, cigarettes weren't allowed. Let's see. No, they were allowed, but they weren't a commodity. They were trying to get everybody to quit smoking, and so Eric. See, when you go to those prisons, practically any prisons, the smart ones are the ones that are running the prison. They're in the office, or they're doing all the labor. The prison guards and the wardens and that, they got slaves. They don't have to do anything. You ever see Shawshank Redemption?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it was like. And so no, my prison stay, it turned out to be like a spa.
Did you?
Because I just had a great time.
Did you learn anything from Jordan Belfort? So your prison sentence in the 90s, your cube mate was Jordan Belfort. He was Wolf of Wall Street. So he spent his time as a stockbroker, and you encouraged him to write a book, right? The Wolf of Wall Street, 2013, and you guys are still friends. So he learned something from you. Did you learn anything from him?
Yeah, I did. I learned that no matter how intelligent you are, how brilliant you are, you can still be stupid when it comes to priorities. Priorities. The single driving force, practically for all criminals, especially white collar criminals. You know what the primary driving force, at least with Jordan, with Trump, with all these guys, sex. Sex. You get perverted because you got so much money, you can buy anything you need. And the only one thing that has always escaped these guys usually was the affection of a beautiful woman. Because most of them, including Jordan, he was too short. It was weird. He was a little weird. He was a good-looking kid, but he was, he wasn't a tall athlete. He was a good tennis player. But his big beef was that he never got respect from the ladies until he got the money, and then you buy the respect. And like Trump, Jordan had a beautiful, gorgeous Russian lady, that kind of twisted his head all around. Because that's the other thing a beautiful woman can do is, no matter how much money you got, she can twist you all in to knots. And that's why those guys like Weinstein and that, when they got up there, the first thing they do is get weird and sort of almost sadistic, because that's what happens when you got all this money. Then you get a little weird. You get weird. So this is, and what I learned off Jordan is that all the money in the world, can't buy you respect. And he found that out too. And so as a result, you don't get respect. And so you say, well, then F you, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, then I'm going to have this gorgeous girl. Yeah, it's weird. And the other thing that they lack is moral courage, like any kind of spiritual training, because most of those guys, well, Jordan especially, because when I met him, like he was, we shared a cubicle, but I was in the garden doing my thing, and he was playing tennis and he was playing backgammon. He would do two things at once. He'd have a guy to play backgammon with at the same time while he was doing something else over here. And so we had a car, we called it, where a bunch of us, where Eric Larson cooked the meals. Eric and Mike would cook this incredible meal every night. And so we invited Jordan into the car. Now, the only rule we had was that if you didn't cook, you had to clean the pots and pans. Well, Jordan immediately never did any work in his life. He would hire all the poor prisoners, the guys that never had any money. And that's what the rich guys did. They never did a job in their life, never made a bed, never swept the floor, never did anything. They had guys doing it. But Eric had a rule, said, no, if you don't wash the pots, and if they cook, you wash the pots and pans. It's like a thing. And so Jordan wouldn't wash the pots and pans, so they kicked him out of the car. And so when I taught him how to write, and that was another thing, that was kind of funny because we're sharing a cubicle, but he had his life, I had mine, and I was writing my book, and one day he said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Writing my book. I'm going to write a book." And so he sat down and he wrote a page and he handed it to me, like very proud, because he is a genius. And I took the page and I read it. And it was almost verbatim, Bonfires of the Vanities with Tom Wolfe, almost word for word. And he looked at me like, I'm Jordan Belfort. What do you think? And I said, I just shook my head. And I've never been a negative guy, but in this case, I shook my head. I said, you haven't written shit. You haven't done anything. And he was shocked. He said, what? I said, write. He said, what should I do? I said, write those stories you tell me. Don't copy anybody. It's got to be original. And then he says, yeah, but, and so I give him the secret of, because I learned this in movie making. I call it the most of rule. Like if you're going to get high, you don't just get high. You get higher than anybody's ever got in their life. Because that's what people want to read. Like if it's a giant, you don't want a guy that's 6'2". You want a guy that's 8 foot, 10 foot, because you're writing, you can create anything you want. And so I told Jordan that rule, and that was it. You
got to shelf the fiction and get the real story out, because that's a story that's worth hearing.
That's it.
Entertaining story.
And he looked at me, and he's so quick. He's so quick, and he's one of those guys that can add figures in his head. My son's like that too, but it's kind of scary because he's playing the stock market now. But no, he's doing good. But Jordan, and then he didn't say anything. And by the way, he got kicked out of the car, out of the food team, because he wouldn't do it.
You got to clean the dishes.
And the last Jordan story, it was funny. He got so involved in writing his book that he wouldn't he didn't get to the commissary to buy food, because if you don't buy your food, you got to eat in the mess hall, which is there. That's not for rich people, And so Jordan kept borrowing chicken from me, but I needed the chicken for our meals because we shared everything. And so one day I realized, man, yeah, he's gotten, I don't know, a couple of chickens and hasn't paid anything back yet, And I'm just as busy as he is. I'm writing a book too. So I had a dog. I had a big enforcer, a biker. We great guy named Steve. He was about almost 5'8", 5'7", but he could bench press 400 or 500 pounds. He was all upper body, and he was a nice biker, tattoos and everything else, but great guy and funny. We had the best time. He was my dog the whole time I was there. And so I told my dog, I said, come on, Steve, Jordan owes me some chicken. You want to go collect it for me? And Steve goes, oh man, do I have to? You're my dog. 5 minutes later, Jordan Belfort's at my cubicle with chicken. He said, here, personally, it wasn't giving it to Steve. He personally said, here's your chicken.
That's interesting.
That was good.
You had your own foray into the Wall Street market for a brief stint. I'm wondering if you can maybe elaborate on your experience. Since it didn't really succeed, maybe there's a learning experience from there. You had a solution for pot banking. So cannabis banking still isn't a thing. It's 2021. The States Act, the MORE Act, all of these things that would allow for cannabis banking, still not a thing. You had a green card back in the day. So that was a payment solution for the medical marijuana dispensaries and rec stores that obviously operate in cash. So the card was going to sell for $19.95, and then you would load using cash, not a credit or debit card, and then exchange that at rec shops. Great idea. Didn't necessarily work out. Was there any learning?
Never got off the ground. Well, the banking. That's the key. That's the key to our legalization.
Right.
In fact, when they talk to anybody, that's what everybody's waiting for. Once they get the banking together, we're gone. We're good. We're good to go. But you see what we're against? We're against that black market. We're against that. They don't want, those DEA agents and those government officials and that, they're getting millions of dollars. They don't want that income to stop.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're up against. But time will tell. Time will tell. If what I'm thinking, maybe the Bitcoin or something, they're going to come up with some kind of cannabis currency. That's what I'm seeing. That I'm thinking, But I remember before we had credit cards. I remember when just the odd weirdo had a diner's card. And it was hard. And when I first got my credit card, I remember if something looked fishy, they'd keep it and they'd cut it in half.
Oh, wow.
I guess that never happened to you, but it happened to me.
I remember hearing about people, if they thought that it was stolen or anything weird, they would cut it. Yeah.
I cut it in half.
Yeah.
Just cut it in half.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's changed, man. That's why I got so much hope for the human race. Because, look at we got AI, artificial intelligence, and for a while there, even my son was a little bit, skeptical. It's not good. It's going to do this, going to do that. But I realized Elon Musk said it, that he said eventually we're going to be putting computer chips in humans. You know what it's going to cause? You know what's going to be able to? They're going to be able to fix spinal cord injuries. Yeah. Eventually, they're going to be able to put a chip in you, and boom, your spinal cord is back, because it's all a series of electronic impulses, and that they can't figure out with a knife. You can't splice anything together. This has to be a computer chip. That that copies the spinal cord, and then you're going to have people walking and doing incredible things physically, and yeah. Oh,
it's kind of scary. That Neuralink company that you're talking about with Elon Musk is kind of crazy, but he's a brilliant guy. And he basically said, you know, if you can't beat him, join him. And hopefully it doesn't take over the world. We're actually using artificial intelligence and machine learning for an investment. It's a trading algorithm. And so we're investing in cannabis stocks. Last year, we were up 93%. And then this year was been crazy. So we were up 108% within the first 34 days of the year using AI and machine learning. So there are some benefits to it, but I'm not going to lie, it is a little scary, you know, because
what?
you don't know if somebody bad is going to use it for bad things.
It reminds me of the natives, you know, when you point a camera at them, Indians, what are you doing? You're stealing, you're stealing my soul.
Yeah.
And when you think about it, they were right. They were right.
Wow.
Because like a movie, a movie can steal your youth, and then, you know, that those child stars, you know, all they are famous for is when they were young, and then when they get old, they don't exist anymore. It's crazy, huh?
That is interesting. Well, you guys have a documentary, or did you have a documentary coming out talking about your origins with you and Cheech?
Yeah, it's still being done.
Okay.
He was kind of the guy, the filmmaker. It's my daughter, Robbie, and her guy, Dave. Dave has been on some really good films, and he's been on this one for almost 4 or 5 years now. Wow. Yeah. 4 years for sure, because when Trump, isn't it funny? We can tell our time by Trump now. When Trump was elected to
the PTA, the pre-Trump era.
Yeah.
PTE.
Yeah. No. Yeah, we gotta. But he's fine tuning it. He's working on it. Thing is about movies. You can work on them forever. You don't really you don't finish a movie, you abandon it.
Well, you guys are still working on these dispensarias, right? When can we expect to see that, either, you know, in LA where you're at, or Seattle where I'm at, or in Colorado where we were both at for the launch of Chong's Choice in like 2017 or whenever that was, a million years ago?
It was, you know, the pandemic stopped everything. Well, it helped, you know, the weed industry in a lot of ways, you know, and it slowed everything down. We're still, I think the latest plan was to have Cheech and I kick off it still is, like a little series of us delivering weed. You know, we're gonna kick that off, as well as our opening the dispensaries. We got a place in San Francisco, one in LA, and one in Boston that we're just on the verge. We're getting through the lockdown and all that. And so that's our plan. And it's going to be good. You know, we're going to be Seattle. It's going to be all over the place. It's going to be, once we get them going, you know, once we get them going and show them how to do it. You know, I think like Cheech is opening an art gallery in Riverside. And it was due to be open in 21, which is now 21. Right. And so he, and it's the old library. So he's got a whole building, and there's a possibility that might be our first dispensary, you know, as well, into that area. That's what I like to, well, it depends, you know, each area is different. You know,
I would like to see a van made out of weed put in there that we can go in and hotbox. That would be ideal. I would like to hotbox with you guys. Who would you like to smoke out with? Is it still Paul McCartney? Is that still your number one choice? Who's the person you would not like to smoke weed with other than Trump? Is there anybody that you would like not want to, or would you even like to pick their brain while they're stoned?
Let's see. You know,
and Paul McCartney, by the way, you want to smoke with Paul McCartney because he's the only Beatle that you haven't smoked with.
That's right.
the story.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Actually, you know, I don't have anybody that I dislike. Even when Rush Limbaugh, when I heard that Rush died, you know, I told Rush in my post to say hi to God for me, and everybody, oh, you know,
people hate that guy.
Yeah, but the thing is, he's no longer here. He's no longer Rush. He's gone.
Right.
And he'll never be back. That guy is gone forever.
Right.
And so his spirit, you know, his spirit doesn't.
That's wise of you, but there's still a lot of people who don't understand that spirit leaves that negativity when they do go to the other side. I don't think that's really something that
here's what you got to realize. Without the Rush, you don't have the Tommy Chongs. You don't have you know, this is a physical world. For every action, there's a reaction. And we take turns, by the way, when we go back. When we go in the spirit world, there's nothing but love. You know, if it's Rush or Hitler or anybody,
right?
You know, when the spiritualist said, "Yeah, you'd be surprised. You go to the spirit world, you'll see God. You'll see Hitler. You'll see Mussolini. You'll see all those, you know, the Night Stalker, because the evil is just another experience. It's just another experience, and you can't have up without down. You know, you can't have right without left. See, if there's no left, there's only right. Then it's not right. It's just, you know, and so they're the opposites. That's what I learned. That's what I learned in prison, by the way. You know, that you need both. You know, just like you need an opponent to play tennis.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. Balance. It action reaction. Right. And that's what and that only happens in the physical world. You see, it doesn't happen in the spiritual world. So the spiritual world, you're going to find spirit.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a beautiful place to roll this one up. Is there some links or anything else that you want to discuss before we wrap this up?
No, just keep the Chong, you know, our product doing fine. Strips. This is what I'm using to promote to help our investors. You know, because everybody loves it. They're like breast strips. You know, you take them and you put them on your tongue and they melt. And this has 10 milligrams.
Is that THC or CBD?
THC.
Okay.
THC.
That's great. Like those Listerine strips. I kind of like those. You put them on your tongue.
Exactly.
And it gets straight through the blood-brain barrier a lot quicker.
Exactly. I give these out at parties all the time. And I give them our New Year's party, you know, very, very sparse. You know, there's only 6 people. Everybody got a strip. And it acted just like a joint.
Yeah.
We had one lady, she got kind of discombobulated, you know, she was sitting there and she said, oh, I don't know what happened, but I started thinking all these terrible thoughts. And then I thought, oh my God, did I say them out loud?
That's funny.
We laughed and then we said, what were the thoughts?
Right. Yeah. Now you got me curious. That's funny. All right. Well, yeah, we're going to have all those links in the show notes. People can get a hold of you and your products, follow you on social media, all of that. So I think with that, we're going to roll this one up. I want to thank my guest, Tommy Chong, Chong's Choice, and a slew of other things. Kind of an icon in the industry. Tommy, I appreciate you being on the Talking Hedge.
My pleasure, man. I love the name too, Talking Hedge.
Oh, thank you.
That's great. That's great.
I am Josh Kincaid. This is the Talking Hedge. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, or don't. And I'm out. Don't forget to smash that like button on your way out and check out these other videos that we've got.